John, the first question that's in has to do. It looks like it says SRM versus MyIT. Isn't there some duplication? So I guess what they're asking is, if you have SRM, which is a Remedy product, and you've mobilized that to some extent, isn't that kind of providing the same functionality that MyIT might be?
In some ways, it does. We're definitely not marketing this as a replacement for SRM. Now that said, we have had some customers that have started the process of moving to SRM and now have seen MyIT and said, you know what, this would be so much easier for my users to consume than rolling out a full SRM based on the web client and everything like that. So yes, there is some overlap. Today in the 1.0 product, there are some things that you can't do in MyIT that you can do in SRM. So if you have a very complex multi-question service request, that's something that at least in the 1.0 release of MyIT we don't do today. If you've developed anything, it's a term called an advanced interface form. Those actually aren't supported in the 1.0 release, but they will be in the future. So yes, there's still very distinct use cases that SRM would still be where you would want to drive your users to, but this is not meant to or is being thought of in any way as a replacement for SRM.
Okay. And John, speaking of sort of BMC or Remedy anyway, I believe that MyIT has to have some sort of back end to it. Well, and maybe that's a question. I mean, I guess the question is, does it really need a back end like Remedy, or could you run MyIT just sort of in a standalone mode without having to connect to another type of support tool?
The way,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I got you. And the way MyIT works today is in the first release, it is tied to SRM or ITSM is a core requirement for MyIT. Now that said, there's a lot of things I showed you today that you may not be ready to move and roll out. So one of the things might be services. If you don't configure something, it just doesn't show up in the MyIT application. So when I showed you the scheduling capability, the scheduling is done on the MyIT server. And if that's something you don't want to offer to your end users on day one, you don't configure it, it doesn't show up. Same thing with the location aware thing. If you don't configure any assets or locations, then you don't have any locations to go look at. So, but in the 1.0 release, we do have a requirement from an ITSM perspective. And the reason for that, and I don't want to discourage somebody, if you look at this and you're not using ITSM, please still talk to us because we're so close to releasing the next release, and depending on what your requirements are, it still would be worth having a conversation about it. But today, one of the reasons that we use ITSM is we're using it also for the authentication capabilities on 1.0, and once we have the 1.1 release out, then there won't be a requirement for ITSM for the authentication functionality.
Okay.
So next question?
Yeah, this one has to do with the iPhone apps, I guess, and it seems like it's a native. Obviously, it's a native application. Do you see other applications coming along that you could maybe purchase at the App Store that would add additional value to MyIT? And so I guess the question is BMC looking for other applications? Are they working with other third parties to write other applications to work with MyIT?
Interesting enough, when we started showing MyIT, we found some interesting use cases that have had us think about things we would want to expand into MyIT. I don't know that we're thinking about writing different applications, but maybe one good example is if anybody on the phone actually uses our batch processing application, Control M. You'll know that's one of the best ones in the marketplace, and it has its own mobility client. And as we've seen, a lot of people have said, hey, I really want to be able to get to Control M from inside of MyIT. I want to be able to control my jobs. I don't want two apps. And so that's caused us to think through it a little bit. But then we've also had things like that are features that are starting to emerge in applications like crowdsourcing and augmented reality. And so this idea, and we've actually got this working in the lab, where I could have had my iPad, been looking at it from a flat map perspective, and then all of a sudden turned it up and looked at it and stuck it in front of my face, and the camera could come on and actually say, hey, wait a minute, I want to show you where you are, and I want to show you up ahead where that printer is so I can walk to it a little bit easier, as in kind of a augmented reality. So we are looking to do additional things with MyIT, but I don't know that we're looking to go off and become an app development company, if that makes sense.
Yep.
All right.
Next question is, we're in the middle of a 2-year Remedy Suite rollout. How long would it take to get MyIT up and running?
The general process to get MyIT up and running, if you have the core required components, so if you have the 7604 or higher application, and you have the other things that we have that we need for 1.0, we've seen in POCs and quick releases, we've seen those actually be able to get up and functional within less than a week. MyIT does add a server to the whole piece, and then we have a whole service offering as well, and I know that RightStar can work with you as well that would help you come in and do an assessment, figure out where you want to go first, and then be able to get up and running. And so literally I did not show it to you, but for another customer demo I did, we happened to be at a trade show here in Dallas, and it took me all of about 10 minutes to go grab a map off of the hotel website, import it into the MyIT server, add a couple of assets on there, like where our booth was and where the registration desk was and maybe where the restrooms were, and then it was available in MyIT. So we built this with the idea that you can put it up and running very quickly.
Okay. And then the next, and this looks like the last question, is can you share anything about the next release? When are other mobile phones going to be supported?
We're actually actively working on the next release right now. We made a conscious decision to do iOS first, but we designed it in such a way that made the port to Android and to HTML5 very easy. So right now our plans are that we will provide native capabilities for iOS and Android, and then for all other platforms we'll use an HTML5 interface. If we see a trend reverse itself around, the most logical one would be BlackBerry. And right now we keep monitoring BlackBerry, and we feel like that trend is still going down and not up. Looks like more people are jumping off than jumping on. But if we see that there's a trend in a particular platform, then we will go native in that platform. But for right now, the intent is that toward the end of this summer, which would be probably in the August-September time frame, we'll have the Android and the HTML5 interface. That'll also allow for some customers that have talked to us that want to use this in on a laptop or a desktop, then they'll actually be able to run the HTML5 as well. So So that'll give you an idea there. Again, if you're interested in this and we're not supporting the platform that you need right now, I would still encourage you to have a conversation with us, because this is one of those situations that we are doing a lot of agile development around it. And if you are interested in a different platform, not only could you get involved with understanding the requirements you would need to go forward with MyIT, but you might even be able to either work as an early adopter or select market acceptor access to be able to get this even sooner than the end of the summer.
Okay. Well, very good. Well, that's it. I don't have any other questions here. So, John, I certainly wanted to say thank you for your time and excellent presentation and